What is up, my Dragon Tubers? I'm back with another video here. We're talking Dragon Ball Z. Not necessarily Fakatsu no F, but on this video, I'd like to talk a little bit about something that has been brought up a number of times in the last few days. Since the Fakatsu no F spoilers came out, lots and lots of people have been commenting. First of all, thank you for your subscription, and if you haven't subscribed, click that subscribe button right now, and thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it. I'm very humbled. So a lot of you have been commenting about what is going to be the future of Dragon Ball. What's going to happen here? And a lot of folks have been asking me and communicating with each other about the possibility of a future Dragon Ball TV series or more movies. So I thought I'd make a video about it because it's just, a lot of people. So I might as well just put everything together into one video, and we'll talk about it right now. So the obvious answer, which I'm sure a lot of fans of Dragon Ball, and probably every fan really, as far as should they make another series, the answer is going to be yes. And of course the answer is going to be yes because we all want more Dragon Ball, and if we didn't, we wouldn't be making YouTube videos and watching YouTube videos and reading about this new movie. We all want it, obviously, right? But before talking about the future, we really have to look at the past and where Dragon Ball has been and what originally actually happened that brought us here. Because I think a lot of people might not know the story. But, when Dragon Ball Z ended, which was in 1995... Toriyama was done. Toriyama had written nonstop for almost 2 decades, really, almost. Because you got to also, remember that he also did Dr. Slump, and he had done the manga for Dr. Slump and for Dragon Ball, all the way until 96. And in addition to that, he also worked on a number of video games. Well, in 95 is when the production started on Chrono Trigger. And from what I understand from reading all this, Toriyama was, Chrono Trigger was a pretty big project, and some people, and this is fans, not actually people in the business, some people have said that because he was working on Chrono Trigger, that it distracted him from Dragon Ball, and that's why kind of the end of the Buu Saga is a little weird, because if you look at the end of the Buu Saga, you can tell that he was having struggles in figuring out how to finish it, because we go from Gotenks to Gohan to Vegito to Goku and Vegeta, like, really quickly. It's like he just couldn't figure out how he wanted to end this thing. But right after Dragon Ball Z ended, Dragon Ball GT started. And the thing about Dragon Ball GT is that in Japan, most of the fans were aware of the Dragon Ball manga. In fact, the manga was the highest selling manga of all time, I think even to this day. But they were aware the story was over. GT started like right after Dragon Ball Z ended, literally the next week. And episode 2 of GT is where GT peaked. Episode 2 of GT did a 19.7 rating, which is the highest rating that GT ever did. And then it was all downhill from there. Now, I'm under the impression, my belief, is that GT and its failure to capture the imagination of the audience was not so much because of Toriyama's lack of involvement in the story, but more so because the story turned people off. I think that Goku becoming a kid again and Goku's chasing of the Dragon Balls and the show kind of changing into what it was for that first arc, I think that's what did the most damage to the show. Not so much the writing as far as like who was writing, but more so the fact that the starting arc was already kind of a step in the wrong direction. That's my opinion, and the numbers kind of prove that people were very turned off by the first 2 episodes, and then it started going downhill from there. But also, Dragon Ball had been on television nonstop since 1986, and that's a long show. Most anime shows of that era were about 26 episodes. They were short. Some were longer. You obviously had your outliers. But in Japan, shows that long were not that common. Nowadays Naruto and One Piece are very long. Pokemon's like at 800 episodes or 900 episodes or something like that. But this show had kind of run its course. I mean, realistically speaking, and let's be 100% real, I love Dragon Ball, but in 1996, 1997, Dragon Ball ran its course. The Buu Saga kind of showed this. GT definitely showed it. So it was time to end Dragon Ball. It was time. Just like any other show, like The Wire, like Breaking Bad, like any show we have in this country, eventually you got to end it. But then what happened was in 2002, 2003, when Dragon Ball kind of got over in this country, even though it really got over like in 99, but when it was ending here, Atari and Namco Bandai and all these companies, I don't even think they were merged back then, but they started putting out these new video games. And then in Japan, for the first time ever, they released the Dragon boxes. So the Japanese fans kind of got to watch Dragon Ball Z on DVD for the first time because they had never had a DVD release before the Dragon boxes. So it kind of brought interest back into Dragon Ball, you know, and that's the cool thing about it is that the fact that it got over in this country, forcing the American/Japanese video game companies to make video games, and then the Dragon Box combination kind of helped bring Dragon Ball's, you know, aura back into the spotlight in Japan. So, but that's neither here nor there. Let's fast forward to 2008. So here's what happened. In 2008, and this, I don't know if you guys know this story, but in 2008 when the Jump Super Anime Tour special came out, which is Yo, Son Goku and His Friends Return, it came out. It did pretty well. It wasn't a theatrical movie. It was shown at conventions, and Toei, and this was actually on Kanzenshu on one of their podcasts. I don't remember. It was a couple months ago. I don't remember exactly which episode they talked about it, and I think it was also on their page, but I do not remember exactly when. But Toei approached Toriyama about doing a new Dragon Ball show, a new Dragon Ball series, and Toriyama declined. Toriyama said, "No, I'm done." This was in 2008. So as a result of that, instead, that's how Dragon Ball Kai came. Somebody was like, well, let's redo Dragon Ball Z with less filler, you know, and it doesn't have, don't be fooled, folks. The thing has filler still in it. Gregory's in it because you can't really just chop them out of the animation. There's still things from Z that were filler that were kept in because they had to do it. It does cut down the filler, but it's not filler less, so don't be fooled by that marketing technique. Anyways, so Toriyama said no, and then Kai came about. At the same time, right around the same time, the Dragon Ball Evolution movie came out. Here's where it gets interesting. Now, Kanzenshu had a translation of an interview that Toriyama did after the movie came out where he pretty much said something to the effect of, well, it wasn't really my vision, but, I mean, I guess it was okay. Something like that. In other words, he didn't outwardly bury the movie. He just kind of said, well, it wasn't my vision. It was a very political answer. And that's the thing about Japanese culture is that the Japanese really don't try to be insulting. Like I've said this before in other videos. They're a totally different culture from us. They're not dicks like we are. All right, let me just put it bluntly like that. But at the same time, maybe they're a little too nice. What can you do? Especially Toriyama. But then a few years later, right around, I think it was right after Battle of Gods came out, there was another interview. And Toriyama pretty much buried Dragon Ball Evolution 6 feet under, as he would. I mean, he didn't cuss people out or anything like that, but the other interview, Toriyama basically said, they didn't listen to me, it was insulting, they didn't ask the creator for anything. Basically, he was basically saying, and I'm paraphrasing, he was saying that he was insulted that they were making a live-action Dragon Ball movie and they didn't even consult him at all or ask him any questions or even listen or even adapt the comic the right way. And little known fact, this is what got him involved in Dragon Ball again. I find it very ironic that the existence of Fakatsu no F and Battle of Gods kind of all started from Dragon Ball Evolution in a roundabout way. When Toriyama was told, I guess, I'm not really sure the timetable on this one, so don't quote me on this, but when Battle of Gods, which I think at the time was actually just called Dragon Ball Z 2013, they didn't actually have a name for it, but when the movie was being produced, Toriyama initially wasn't that involved and then became involved and changed everything. You know, I'm sure you guys have heard this before, but Beerus was actually a totally different creature in the original script. He was a lizard creature, and the backstory was going to be that he infested planet Vegeta years ago, and that's the reason why the race was evil. That was the original plan. Also, the God form was supposed to look totally different. It was supposed to look like a combination of SSJ3 and SSJ4, except with blonde hair and a cape. That was the original artistic plan, I guess you can say, the original design or whatever. And there are some fanfics out there, or fan pictures that depict it, but there's no official picture of this. I'm still waiting for it. I want to see what this thing looks like. But Toriyama came in there, changed everything, changed the way Beerus looks, changed the way that Goku, God form looks, just changed everything. Somewhat rewrote the script or whatever you want to say. I don't know if he actually rewrote it, but he rewrote some story elements, and we had the new movie. Now, let's get to the subject at hand here. Should there be a new Dragon Ball Z series, and will there be? So here's again, I've been around the block. Here's my honest view on it. Will there be? Not now, and I'll tell you why. There's no more of a story to tell when it comes to Goku and these characters that can maintain an entire series. Will we see a miniseries? Will we see a continuation as far as movies go and TV specials? Yes. Why? They're easier to produce. The stories are easier to tell. They can probably make more money on them internationally. And the voice actors are much older now. Masako Nozawa, who does Goku's voice, is, I believe, in her 80s now, and which is scary, really, honestly. So a new TV series, especially one as long as Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, it's not happening. Now, one thing I can say might happen, and this is a prediction for far into the future. Like with the Sailor Moon Crystal remake, I have a feeling that at some point in the future, again, this is probably going to be another 10 years maybe less, maybe more, there's going to be a remake of Dragon Ball. I feel. And I mean, not a new story, but I think they're going to take Dragon Ball, the manga, and I'm talking about Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, the whole thing, the whole combination, and they're going to probably reanimate it, do it right from scratch. I could be wrong on this. But I'm just the reason why I'm saying this is because there are other forms of media out there now that have been getting remakes. And here's the thing about society, about our culture, and I'm talking about here and in Japan and everywhere else. The culture we live in now is extremely nostalgic. That's the world we're in right now. Look at the movies that are coming out. We got Marvel movies coming out that are based on comic books from 30 years ago. We got Transformer movies. We got Turtles. We got G.I. Joe. We got, it's just, the list goes on and on. There's a new Terminator coming out. It's just funny to me that the whole world, Hollywood, is so focused on nostalgia, bringing back what was popular 30 years ago for a new audience and for the audience that grew up with it to revisit it again. This is why Battle of Gods was so successful, because Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z were extremely successful, and people remember the show fondly. People love the show, whether you watched it on Telemundo, on Toonami, on the WB, or on TV Nihon, or TV Asahi, or whatever channel it was on in Japan. I don't remember which one it was. Actually, I think it was Fuji TV. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyways, doesn't matter where you watched it. It came back, and it's back. But the thing with nostalgia is you have to be very careful, because nostalgia is only a temporary solution. That's the reality of nostalgia. If you look into the psychological, the psychological data on nostalgia, it's only a temporary thing unless you really evolve the story and you really take it to the next level. So, with that said, if there's going to be a new Dragon Ball movie, it cannot be, a new Dragon Ball TV series, a long one, it cannot be about Goku. Goku's story has been told. Now, I want to see what happens with Oob from Toriyama's perspective as much as everybody else does. But the new story really cannot be about Goku. Now, I've got an idea that is a little wacky, but it really isn't that wacky. But I don't think we're going to see it because the Japanese don't think like this. But I have an idea for a somewhat Dragon Ball related TV series that could work. But before we get to that, I just want to say that right now, just to put it out there, there's not going to be a new Dragon Ball Z TV series coming. So don't even hold your breath on that. We're going to get movies for right now. We're going to get maybe some new manga from other artists. However you feel about that is up to you. We might get some TV stuff. But as far as a full, 200-episode series, it's not happening. And please, people, you guys are smart. Don't fall for this freaking thing. There's images that popped up after Battle of Gods with the kid ripping his shirt, saying that Toriyama's animating. Toriyama's not an animator, all right? And that picture, when I saw that picture, I was so pissed, bro. The bullshit. And I talked about how much I hate internet bullshit. No TV show in the history of humanity has ever or will ever be approved for 200 episodes. It's not happening in US or in Japan because you can't produce 200 episodes and then the show flops and you lose money. That's not how it works. You get a limited number of episodes. If it succeeds, you make more. And if it fails, you stop. Look what happened to Toyotaro. Anyways, I'm rambling here. So my idea of what I think they should do is they should do a Jocko the Galactic Patrolman TV show. And my idea for this TV show is very similar to the Breaking Bad Better Call Saul idea. And some of you might not know what I'm talking about, so I'm going to explain it. Better Call Saul is a prequel to Breaking Bad about the attorney that's in Breaking Bad, right? Well, the story takes place before Breaking Bad, but the rumors, the scuttlebutt in Hollywood, is that as the show progresses, we're going to get into the Breaking Bad storyline from his perspective. So we're going to have kind of a Back to the Future Part 2 type of thing where you're going to see scenes from Breaking Bad reshot from his perspective. And so they're going to go neck and neck. Because eventually we're going to get to a point where it's going to pass it. So wouldn't it be awesome if we had a Jocko the Galactic Patrolman series with the Galactic Patrol fighting off Frieza's forces? We find out more information about Frieza. We find out more information about the Galactic Patrol. We find out more information about all these different characters. And as the show progresses, right, we start getting into Dragon Ball from Jocko's perspective, including, if you read the manga, the whole thing with Goku going to Earth. That's one thing. Also, we could get Jocko and the Galactic Patrol's perspective on what happens when Frieza dies. And, Frieza's dead, and they hear the rumors. Again, so it's going to be, the idea is you started before Dragon Ball, and then you move through the show so that it's neck and neck with Dragon Ball. And then it could end with Jocko going to Earth and fighting alongside them in Fakatsu no F or whatever. I think that could work for a Dragon Ball show. My thing with Dragon Ball is this. Dragon Ball, the universe, the entire Dragon Ball universe, I think that needs to be expanded upon even more. It can't just be about Goku all the time. Even though he's the main character, even though you should promote around him, make your video games about him, make your movies about him, if you're going to do more stuff with Dragon Ball, you got to talk about other stories and other characters because the universe is so big. And now there's 12 universes. I mean, come on now. The sky's the limit with this thing. It really is. The big gimmick right now is all these different, cinematic universes. Marvel did it first. DC is doing it, and probably not doing it very well. We've heard rumors that the Universal Monsters are going to do it. There's going to be a Ghostbusters cinematic universe. Fuck off with that. And leave the two movies alone. There's all these different rumors about these different cinematic universes where these companies are going to be borrowing Marvel's idea. Star Wars, that's the other big one. Borrowing Marvel's idea and doing all these different standalone stories that link together somehow. That's what I want to see with Dragon Ball. I want to see a story about Jocko. I want to see a story about the adventures of Tarble, Vegeta's brother. He needs to get his own TV show. That'd be wacky. Or even have him as a guest on the Jocko show. You could do that. You could do some story about Roshi and how he came up and him when he was a kid and Mutaito, and you could do a story about the Nameks, and you could actually show like the Namek planet having all these problems which would lead to the being that was Kami and Piccolo when they were one person coming to Earth as a result. There's so many stories that I would love to see on television portrayed, you know what I mean, on theatrical, on the screen that they could tell. There's so much stuff out there, but no, is there going to be a new Dragon Ball Z series? Bottom line, this thing. Right now, there's probably going to be a remake series in 10, 15 years, I'm guessing, or maybe a different way of telling the story. I don't really know. Maybe after Toriyama passes away. I mean, happy birthday, Toriyama, by the way. He did turn 60. But I think if they're going to explore this option like now, and when I say now, I mean the next 2 or 3 years, it's got to be a different story. Not about Goku, just something different. You know, that's my view. Leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. What kind of stories do you want to hear? I've heard a few already, and a lot of them are good ideas. You know what I think would be pretty cool is if they did another TV special or something like that, and they told more of the Trunks story from his future. Maybe he has his own adventure. Or maybe they should show, like, this is going to sound weird because I don't think this is actually a good idea for a TV show, but I still would like to see it. They should show what actually happened. In other words, show the Z Fighters getting killed by the androids. Show Goku fighting Frieza on Earth because Trunks couldn't do it because he wasn't born yet. Things like that would be pretty cool. I don't know if that should be a whole movie, though, but that's just something that popped in my head. But I would like to see a future Trunks should have his own thing. Maybe the Time Patrol could do something. I don't know. Just some ideas. Give me your thoughts. I'm out. Thank you for subscribing. Spread the word. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Spread the word about the channel. And thanks, everybody, for your support. I very humbly appreciate it. Trust me on this one. And I'll catch you down the road.